This is base. Life outside the federal witness protection. How many kids did they pawn for terrorism information? Hey, it's Susan. Welcome to tonight's episode of Life Outside WITSEC. Nice to see ya. You know, I was debating on whether or not I'm going to deal with Senator Dianne Feinstein, oh my gosh, or any members of Congress again. See, there's pros and cons to this when it comes to these kids' cases. Certainly, some members of Congress might find this whole situation absolutely disgusting, morally disgusting. Senators, especially that deal with human rights violations. I was looking back at this, and it looks like United States Senator Benjamin Cardin of Maryland is a big advocate for human rights. So I could see why he may find something like this disgusting, where perhaps other members of Congress might not. So, you know, in knowing that, you know, I often wonder if I should just deal with Senator Dianne Feinstein herself again, because apparently, you know, I'm just not happy with their office. You know, I wish I could actually speak to her directly, because she is chairperson of the Intelligence Committee and she's on the Senate Judiciary Committee. And, you know, I would consider her to be a tough woman, per se, from what I have seen on what she's done in the Senate committees. So, but you know, it's hard to reach these people. I mean, to reach Senator Harry Reid, I actually had to go to Washington myself and just like literally put myself right in front of him in the Lyndon B. Johnson room during a constituent breakfast on something of this magnitude, while at the same time I was getting retaliated against, while at the same time, other than getting screwed, I really didn't have a good concept on how to explain this in terminology that would be like criminal terminology, or explain it in government affairs terminology. So, you know, intermixed in me getting railroaded, kidnapped, you know, sex trafficked, all these damn sting operations and so forth, I've actually spent a lot of time trying to learn nomenclature when it comes to these kinds of issues, so I can be more fluent when I'm dealing with anyone, including Congress. So anyway, so in doing that and looking at this again, you know, I have to, like, okay, you know, when the U.S. Department of Justice did not come forth on their own back in 2010. You know, I tried to contact Assistant Attorney General Ronald Weiss up there in Washington, D.C. Never got a call back from him, but that damn agent Chris Byers from the Las Vegas FBI, he called me back, and I was like, whatever, dude, you know, pretty much blew him off. I blew him off. He's an asshole. Dude, he's the one that caused all these problems. So, you know, trying to talk about, oh yeah, you know, following up on the report that you made about, you know, whatever with Mark Moore and all kinds of shit. I mean, they're just so stupid. They're just so fucking corrupt. But anyway, so the U.S. Department of Justice never contacted me on their own. And even after Senator Harry Reid's office claiming that they opened up this FBI investigation, no one from the DOJ has ever contacted me. Now, don't you find that strange? And so I keep asking myself, why is this occurring? Well, of course, you know, I've been retaliated so much and I've had to go to other law enforcement. In doing so, I've learned more information. And then in doing so, I've had to make more reports, knowing that there's a lot of criminal activity that is, you know, apparently going on far beyond what I initially knew. And then I had no idea that they've actually harmed and attacked my whole family, whether that's this FBI task force, the government, or whether or not it's the terrorists or the FBI enabling the terrorists to attack my family. You know, both could be true. So, you know, so in that, I've got a lot of law enforcement. But, you know, big guys, you know, not little like twits that just got out of whatever law enforcement academy. Big guys, people that have been doing this for years, that are highly experienced in these kinds of cases. We're talking, you know, ICE agents, Homeland Security special agents. We got the special agent category, the agent category. We got the intelligence, border intelligence category. Lots of categories. Special agents with the Secret Service. We got deputies and inspectors with the U.S. Marshal Service, and, you know, like a big guy, big U.S. Marshal, like the sworn-in U.S. Marshal, Charles Salina in Buffalo, New York. You know, I had contacted him when I was up in Bethel, Alaska, because this kids thing is just driving me crazy, you know, and he thought that maybe perhaps, you know, like he thought that, you know, it's like, aren't they already out looking for him? You know what? I'm still not convinced that they are totally out looking for him, because I keep facing so much retaliation. You know what? I mean, you know, it's like, because then see what happened after that is that I got, you know, that, see, keep in mind, this is one moment in time, and things can switch overnight in this. I mean, things can switch in this case in like a heartbeat. So what might be thought at one point in time, aren't they already out looking for him? You know what, with the way the DOJ and the FBI is working, you know what, especially the DOJ, something like that can flip in a heartbeat. That could flip in a heartbeat. If they were looking out for my son at one point in time, that could change in a heartbeat. Because after, when I went up to Anchorage, Alaska, you know, I was just making I was really trying to really make inquiries about the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children with the U.S. Marshal Service in Virginia, because I was having so much trouble getting any kind of like just private community help, such, you know, from the National Center. So that's why I had initially contacted the Marshal Service in Virginia, because I thought that was strange. It's like, why can't I get help from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children? Why can't I get my son up on a poster board or whatever, like all the other kids? And, you know, and then the inspector there says, you know, we can't do anything because of U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder. So that's why I said everything in this situation. See, I know that because I know how they work, and I don't trust the U.S. Department of Justice. And then on top of that, I don't personally. I don't. I've had such horrible experiences. I don't. So, and then I could just keep trying to think to myself, okay, so now my cousins in Rochester, they have kids. I can't remember how old their kids are. My family was not that close just because we lived so far apart, and relatives had died early on in life. And so my cousins, we just never really kept in good a contact. My mom did with them more than I did per se, but like they have kids. So why would this be so hard? So this is what I think. In the greatness of these kinds of people, this seems like it would be extremely easy. Like, I just wonder, you know, like, why is the U.S. Attorney, this is what I think, why is the U.S. Attorney's Office in Buffalo, New York, not throwing these people in prison? Why is that not happening? Why? Why is that not happening? Why is the district attorney in Rochester, New York, whatever county that is, like, why are they not doing anything? Why has nothing been prosecuted? Why is nothing, you know, I mean, court cases can take forever, you know, but why has nothing been filed? You know, I don't even see a wanted poster up on any of these law enforcement, you know, departments for any of these people. So that means that there's no warrant issued yet. So why is that? So there's something that is not right. And the only possibility that I thought of today is perhaps, you know, perhaps they might have traded all of the children. You know, I wouldn't put it past this FBI task force. I mean, they are so desperate for terrorism information. I would not put it past them to have traded all of the children. See, now, like, okay, so, like, I was actually trying to imagine this, you know, because, like I said, the FBI, they're so conniving and they're so full of shit. So I can totally see my son's father, the guy that's now considered, you know, to be the terrorist or whatever. Okay, so the terrorist, Alex, I can totally, you know, see him sitting there, and I can see these twerps in the FBI, and I can see them, you know, trying to, like, I'm imagining this, just like imagine on TV when they're sitting there interrogating people, like, if you give us this, we'll cut you a deal, we'll give you immunity, we'll, you know, you tell us more, we'll give you this kind of thing. I can totally see this negotiation going on. Now, if you read the 9/11 Commission, especially if you read staff statement number 9, law enforcement approach to terrorism or counterterrorism, you know, pre 9/11, it talks about how the FBI was trained to build cases, and it talked about using a traditional law enforcement approach to terrorism. And so in that traditional law enforcement approach, they always use these plea bargains, this stupid stuff of immunity, you know, you give us this, I'll give you that. So I can totally see this happening where, you know, the FBI wanted terrorism information, and then, you know, Alex just coming and saying, well, I want Adrian. Okay, well, I'm not going to tell you that I want Brooke. Okay, well, hey, I want TJ too. They're desperate. They want information, because they have to see, they got in trouble with Congress. Don't forget that 9/11 commission, they got in trouble with Congress. Okay. So they want to make it up to Congress and make it up to the American people on this 9/11 stuff. So I can see Alex doing that. Okay. So, and then I'm saying, and then he's like probably thinking, well, what else can I get? Well, I want Susan's cousin's kids up in Rochester. Okay, well, we'll make sure you get those. Okay, well, we want Susan's cousin's kids in Cincinnati. Okay, we'll make sure you get those. We want Susan's cousin's kids in Cleveland. Okay, we'll make sure that you get those. Legally. All legally. Because, when they do all these plea bargains, they always have their damn little attorneys there writing shit up and making shit all legal for them. Whatever. At least they do on TV. So that is the only thing that I can come up with as to, because like I said, it just seems like this would be so easy. There's something that's getting in the way, and what's getting in the way in the United States at this point, it's not ICE, it's not the U.S. Marshal Service, it's the legal system. I mean, there are a lot of discrepancies in local law enforcement, nationwide police and sheriff's offices, but that's because I think that the information that they can pull is only based on what they can get out of the NCIC, that criminal damn database of the FBI. So if they're not getting accurate information, or if they don't know to look in the other criminal database, apparently there's another criminal database. The Secret Service explained that to me. There's another criminal database. So if they only check one source, like the NCIC, and don't check other sources like what ICE uses or what the U.S. Marshal Service uses, then they probably wouldn't maybe get the right information in the first place. So do you see how the FBI can really hack things up? But just generally speaking, there's just a lot of problems with local law enforcement nationwide because of this, until they actually learn or look towards other sources. But anyway, that does not help the situation. I think, it's, see, I guess, when it's government employees involved, unless it's like a crime that's happened like right away, I think it's up to the DOJ to prosecute these guys. I mean, I don't know. Police departments have told me that they've arrested their own officers. I learned that up in Bethel, and a police officer in Rio Rancho, New Mexico, explained that to me as well. Yeah, well, we arrest our own kind. So apparently police officers can do that. Apparently, sheriff's offices can do that. But I think where things get complicated is probably the amount of information that they would be able to pull if an FBI agent or a CIA guy, has done, unless something, like I said, occurred right in front of them. But, so the limited amount of information that I think local law enforcement can get, has access to, or misinformation in the NCIC does not help the situation. Okay, so in knowing that, what do you do? Okay, well, there's negligence across the board with the U.S. Department of Justice. Negligence across the board. The U.S. Attorney's Office down in southern Texas, I mean, he could have whipped this thing like altogether years ago. It's really not that hard. And why it's not being done, I don't know. And why the Houston police or nobody in the Harris County Sheriff's Office is giving this. There's apparently a warrant out for my son's father in Texas. I've still never been able to get a copy of this, but apparently there's a warrant. And, in believing that perhaps this exists, why aren't they giving it to the U.S. Marshals to execute? Why are many child support offices not getting a warrant out for the father, to execute a warrant for non-payment of child support? So that's why I said there's legal negligence across the board on all issues. I mean, right now they could throw my son's father back in prison based on what is believed to be an outstanding warrant in Harris County, Texas. I still don't, like I said, I still don't have a copy of that, but apparently that's the case. And one thing I can say for sure is that he owes me child support, so they could get a warrant out for that, and they've been delaying that like crazy too. So there's a lot of legal negligence. So when there's legal negligence, you have to ask why, because usually the legal system, attorneys are not supposed to break the law. And the only time that they can probably break the law is when they do these back-end plea bargains. Because then all of a sudden it's not breaking the law, and then all of a sudden, you know, it's legal. It's legal because they do it in the back end. It's just like two attorneys said to me back in 2010, Randy Roski, I'm sure this can all be worked out in the back end. Attorney Terry McMillan said, I'm sure this could all be worked out in the back end. That's highly suggestive that something was worked in the back end to start with. And I think it has, I think that they've traded all of these kids. We want information. What do you want? We want more kids. We want information. What do you want? We want more kids. They're trying to break a crime ring. You know, and then, you know, whether they use kids for terrorism or not, like say my cousins up in Rochester, you know, that I would not know. Could they be used for just regular human trafficking, for prostitution, for sex trafficking? Oh yeah, they could. Would the terrorists be able to make money off that? Oh yeah, they would. Would they do that? Of course they would. It's one of the ways that they work. So, but legal negligence within the United States. So I'm just really thinking that despite, you know, all of this law enforcement, I really think that, you know, even our last legal option within the United States of America, I don't think that we have a legal option right now. Unless Congress, members of Congress can actually convince the DOJ to take responsibility for their shit, either through some kind of special counsel, I don't see a legal option within the United States of America for any of these issues, any of the missing people, any of the kids right now as of the date of this video. And whether or not the Senate will do that on behalf of the cause is of course another story. And then the only person that can try to convince them to do that would be me. And you know, I've got a long history of Congress not listening to me, so that's another thing that's up for debate. So, you know, if all else fails, I suppose we can all just take our evidence up to the International Criminal Court. We just explained to the ICC we can't get anything prosecuted by the legal system in the United States. We got the evidence. We have evidence. This is criminal activity has occurred. We can't get the attorney to take the case. We can't get anything prosecuted. And we just take everything to The Hague. And wouldn't that be the strangest thing if ICE and the marshals and me were all sitting around the International Criminal Court giving testimony because the legal system in the United States won't take the case, either on a state or federal level? It would definitely be historic. Maybe even a couple police officers. But anyway, so that's tonight's episode of Life Outside WITSEC. Trading kids for terrorism information, and you know, apparently it's all legal. It's all legal. As long as the attorneys break the law, it's all legal. Keep your stun gun handy. There's real criminals and terrorists out there, ones that our legal system and the FBI knows about and intentionally chooses to do nothing about. I'll see you next time.